Under the Skin is Jonathan Glazer's newest film, 10 years after releasing his previous one, and this one tells a story about an alien who comes into Earth and takes over someone's body, be it Scarlett Johansson, and what she does is that she goes around Scotland picking up guys, taking them in her pedal van, taking them back to her place, and doing some weird things with them. Meanwhile, there's another alien on a motorcycle who's going around supervising what she's doing, really. And the film is actually based off a book, I would say in the most loose sense possible, because the director said that he only read the book once, and his co-writer never really read the book at all. But it's clear to see that this is more of an artsy film. Not so much in the symbolism that it's supposed to hold, because I think it's more of a straight out story, but because it's supposed to be an experience like no other, an experience while you're watching this film. And I would say it is just that, because there isn't really another film like this, because it is very unique with the way it uses sound, the visuals, and especially the story where you're supposed to observe humanity through this alien's eyes. However, this experience may really get under your skin and be very eerie and will stick with you, or you may feel like it really drags out a lot and will just get under your nerves. But it's not to say that there aren't interesting parts in this movie, because there's a lot of things with the visuals, the sound, and the way that the story goes, starting off with the way that they actually have sort of candid moments when she's going to pick up these guys. They don't really know that they're going to be on camera. It's all hidden cameras that they have throughout, which make for some cool scenes, but at the same time add some bad elements of not getting a really good shot of these people or being able to hear them. But it was interesting that they went that route of people not knowing, but supposedly still getting consent from a lot of the people that they filmed for their observations of humanity while they're driving down, which is clearly not possible to get consent of everyone who's at a mall. But I would say the best part when they use the whole essence of having a character who's not really an actor is when they have that figure who you see in the trailer, who I would call the Elephant Man because he has a disfigurement in his face. They actually pick someone, or they got someone, who actually has a disfigurement in his face. So the scene that he has with Scarlett Johansson is actually a lot better and feels a lot more authentic because he actually has that disfigurement. However, I would say this whole banter of dealing with people who aren't really actors, so it just goes back and forth like, hey, okay, hey, how you doing? Or capturing all these observations of people thinking that that's really going to observe humanity when anybody can just go out and just see people. It's not really an artistic way to get it. To me, sort of drag the film down because that takes up like a third of the film of just having these shots of just people walking around or seeing one person get to another point from a long view, and it just drags out, really takes up a third of the film when they could be telling a lot more story. But it's not to say that they didn't have some really cool visuals, especially because there's that phrase that they're calling him the next Kubrick, and I would say there are some scenes here that are very reminiscent of 2001. Especially the beginning when the alien's trying to learn language and you see this whole thing that sort of looks like a Dove commercial, but the visuals that they use there, as well as when she takes the guys back to her house. There was a scene there when she takes them back to her house when you finally see what happens to these guys without spoiling it. It's probably one of the most creepiest things I've ever seen this year so far, along with the beach scene where an event happens that just leaves you going, why? But at the same time, the fact that a lot of it is hidden cameras, you get this thing where when you're looking at Scarlett Johansson, she sounds fine and you can see her fine with the visuals, but then you can tell where it feels like it's a phone camera just recording these people and they sound very muffled along with their Scottish accents. There comes a point where you just don't understand what's going on because you don't understand what they're saying, and there is no subtitles to go along with it, and you can barely see their faces at times. There's also many parts where the sound sounds just fine, but then all of a sudden it starts becoming very muffled for no reason whatsoever. But I will say that my favorite part of the movie was the score that they had. I do feel that they use it a little bit too much. There are moments where Scarlett Johansson's not really doing anything. It seems to drag out. And then they bring in the music, but it doesn't really change what she's doing because she's not doing anything. The music just wakes you up. But the score is very effective, and I don't think anybody would want to listen to the score outside of watching the movie. And overall, I can see why people can enjoy the film because it is supposed to be an experience, but I was actually about 6 feet away from the director at a Q&A and actually blinded his eyes with my flash, but I was able to ask him some questions about what the significance of some of the scenes were, and he said that there isn't really a significance, but it's more just an experience. So again, to me, at a personal level, I like movies that it's supposed to have a meaning to it, that's supposed to have a little bit more, be it that you can translate it whichever way you want to. That's what I like, and this movie is more, again, just of an experience. You can see something and be like, wow, I think that this is this, but that's really not going to be the one interpretation of it because, according to the director, it can be anything. He just made the shot just to have the shot, but there isn't really a meaning to it. And if you're okay with that, then you're really going to enjoy the film. If you don't, then you're really going to love bashing that point and knowing the fact that the director made these scenes just to make the scenes. And at that point, if there's no symbolism, I wish that the straight-out experience that we were to get was a little bit more well-crafted because, again, there's all these shots of random people that are just there. They're just random shots. It feels like, you know, B footage, but also the fact that there are some sort of like Easter eggs that weren't even supposed to be intentional. Like there's Doom and there's Space Invader signs that are all over the place, and that's what you get when you build it in a world where you're just getting all the commercial stuff like the scenes that they have at the mall. But I also feel that the time that they could have been, you know, telling more of the story and the experience, they dragged out a lot, especially that ending, because the ending just drags in a, you know, like 10-second scene of it just being white. and just leaves it there until it turns black. So if you were going into this movie to see it for Scarlett Johansson's plot and to see what's under her clothes and under the skin, you're going to have to sit through a lot of probably weird moments and a lot of time where the scenes drag to get to the next one. But I'm curious to see if you saw the movie, what you thought about it, if you really enjoyed it, what your interpretation of it was and what your favorite scenes were, or if you didn't like it, why you didn't like it down below. Let me know anything having to do with this movie as well as any other down in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.